All right. I think we're going now. I think we're live. So good to see you guys. So I couldn't make it last week, had work commitments. There's a possibility of that happening again next week. I don't know yet. I won't know probably till last minute, but if I can't make it next week, I'll go ahead and leave the same comments in the community section here that I normally do. But we're here this week. So good to see you guys. Glad I could be back with you. Let me get the disclaimers out of the way. We'll get to it. So again, this is a weekly live broadcast pretty much every Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. This is where we're at. I do my best to respond to all the chat that comes in during the live chat itself. I do a pretty good job of that usually. I am doing a better job of responding to comments lately. So, if you've left a comment on a video in the past week or two, you probably got a response to it. I can't promise I'm going to get to every comment on videos, but I do my best to respond to them. I'm trying to get back into the habit of doing that. I'm getting much better at it than for a while I wasn't doing a good job. So this is Ask Me Anything. I don't have a topic planned out, so we just talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Keep it family friendly, be polite, don't be cussing anybody, don't be hateful, any of those kinds of things. We may have to kick you out if you are. But let's get into it. We've got is that Zoes Gonzalez? Zeos, maybe? I don't know how to pronounce that. It says, present, I'm in Missouri as well. Awesome. Thank you for joining. I don't know what part of Missouri you're from, but great to see other Show Me Staters here. We got Scrap 5000. Good to see you. And Joy from Western Oregon. Hello to you. Jammin' Mike's here. Good to see you, Jammin' Mike. Let's see where we at here now. Jesse Mills. Good to see you. Says, good evening, everyone. Congrats on the new rabbits, Chris. Well, thank you. Yeah. Feels good to have rabbits again. It's been a while. I've been holding out for good pedigree rabbits. Finally came across some, so got them all taken care of. Who's this? Tony from Toronto. Good to see you. Lisa says, hello, everyone. Jamaica here. Missed a couple of broadcasts. Love the new rabbits. Well, thank you very much. And I didn't do a live broadcast last week. I got tied up with work, so you didn't miss anything there. So you're right on track, actually. Justin says, hello from Iowa. Good to see you, Justin. Spartman, is that it? Spartman from South Dakota. Andrew from San Antonio, Texas. Oh, Andrew Bailey says, hello, Zach from San Antonio. I'm guessing your name is Zach, maybe? But I don't know, honestly. We're going to call you Andrew probably because that's your username, so no offense. But Lillian Wolf, is that right? Lillian Wolf says, hello. I have a buck who sired litters this summer. I went to breed him with the doe last week, and he was aggressive. Tried again today with different does and definitely in different territories. Same ideas. Why? Your buck was aggressive. That's unusual. That makes me think, maybe he's got some kind of infection or something going on. He doesn't want to be around. It's odd for a buck to be the aggressive one. Usually it's does that are aggressive. And if you take the buck to the doe's cage, they get super aggressive with the buck. You always take the doe to the buck's cage. And you said new territory. So that makes me think that you're taking them to a completely neutral territory for both of them, which should be fine to do. I don't know that I've ever had issues with a buck being overly aggressive. They're always just ready to breed. If he's not ready to breed and he's acting territorial and aggressive with them, might check. I mean, I know you said he sired other, litters before, but, you sure you didn't get him mixed up with another rabbit and it's actually a doe you're dealing with? That's a silly question, I know, but nothing comes to mind as to what would be causing that unless he's got some kind of illness, infection, something like that going on. He could have like an STD of some kind that causes an infection, urinary tract infection or something like that. That's, causing him some pain. And that's why he doesn't want to, breed and he's acting more aggressive. That's the only thing that comes to mind right offhand. I don't think I've ever dealt with a buck that wasn't in the mood and ready to go anytime you wanted him to. I'm sorry I can't help you out more with that one. Let's see. Uncle Dude says, howdy from Bug, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Huh? I know where Tulsa is. That's not far from here at all. Justin says, I have a female rabbit that will do anything to get in the male's cage. Yeah, that happens sometimes too. You can put a block between them, get a piece of like aluminum flashing, go to the hardware store, Home Depot, Lowe's, any of those places. You can get a piece of aluminum flashing pretty cheap. And just put that between the cage so they can't see each other. That might help calm her down a little bit. But that's not a bad thing to have because when you want to get her bred, she's probably going to be willing to go. So, but yeah, you can do that. I always try to, I don't have a block between my other buck and doe, but I should probably, but I do from between one of the two cages because I've had that had problems with the buck really excuse me, that caught me by surprise. I had problems with my bucks being a little too eager sometimes with the does when they can see them, so put that between them to block the view, and that helps. Missy says it's starting to get cooler, hoping our first winter with quail goes okay in Kansas. Yeah, it was cool today. I mean, it was way cooler today out. I don't know what it was like for you. I don't know what part of Kansas you're in, but we had a cold front come through. It was like 68 degrees today. It was almost cold. I mean, it felt cold because we were used to 105 degrees all summer long. It was incredibly hot summer, hot and dry, and it was actually a little cold and kind of rainy today. It felt like fall, first day of fall, and it felt like it. But it's supposed to be back up to 80 tomorrow, and then back in the 90s or low 90s, I think, by the weekend. But definitely a little bit cooler than it has been. Scrap 5000 says, I didn't know that you used to have chickens until I saw your chicken or cleaning video. Have you thought about getting an automatic plucker? Huge time saver. Also, please tell me that you don't throw away the feet. Oh, I did see a comment about that. I didn't get it answered, responded. That was probably you that actually asked about that. No, I don't throw away the feet. What I do with them is I keep them. I use them. I feed them to my dog. He gets them as dog treats. He loves them. I have thought about getting pluckers before, but they're incredibly expensive, and I just can't quite justify the cost. It's oh, you were calling me Zach. I got you. That's okay. I've been called a lot worse. This is a different comment from Andrew there. You meant Chris, not Zach. I got it. That's fine. So back to Scrap 5000. I thought about getting a automatic plucker, but I just can't justify the cost. It's just so expensive. And my wife and I can do, I mean, we don't do that many chickens. We usually do about 20, 25, something like that. And usually we'll knock about half of them out in one day and then the other half in the next weekend. And that it works fine. It's not that big of a deal. We can do it in half a day. We can get, a dozen chickens or more processed. I know an automatic plucker would save some time, but it's really not that hard to hand pluck a chicken. I don't find it that hard. If I was doing hundreds of them on a regular basis, then yeah, definitely. But I don't know. I can't justify it. Rainy Day says, I've got 30 eggs going into lockdown day after tomorrow from my shire, hoping for a good hatch. Building cages right now. Wish me luck. Yeah, absolutely. Good luck. I hope you do have a great hatch. I'm sure you will. You got, my shire is a great supplier. You got some great eggs there. I'm sure you're going to get a great hatch from it. Jared, hey, your videos are cool. Well, thank you very much, Jared. I appreciate that. Justin says 46 here. 46 here, huh? I'm 48. I don't think that's what you're talking about. Are you talking about temperature? 46? Yep, there it is. This morning it was 46. Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you. Took me a minute. I was wondering why you were just randomly telling me your age. It seemed kind of odd, but 46 this morning. It was pretty cool this morning. I don't think it got down to 46. Maybe. I mean, it was. No, I don't. I think it was probably in the mid 50s this morning. Jamin Mike says, LOL, thought I had a doe and tried breeding it 2 months in a row, and every time the one buck would try breeding with the other buck, and before I removed the one, I thought it was a doe he was trying to breed with the other buck. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that happens. It's not unheard of at all to get, to be sure I got a buck and then it turns out to be a doe or vice versa. Gaff the GGM says, hello, I figured out my quail genders. I have 2 female and 1 male. I want to keep them all, but don't want them breeding. So is it fine if I split my cage with wire to keep the male inside at night? Yeah, well, you said keep him inside at night. You're gonna have to keep him away from them all the time if you don't want him breeding. I'm not sure why you don't want him breeding though. 2 females and 1 male. I mean, that is a little bit. I mean, that's a high rooster to hen ratio. So yeah, he'll overbreed your does for sure. And if that's what you mean by like separating him out from time to time, you could definitely do that. You could put a wire to where he can't quite get to him for part of the time. That might help a little bit for that for sure. As far as just, I don't know if you mean like you don't want them breeding at all. If you don't want them breeding at all, you're going to have to keep him completely separate from them all the time. But I don't know why that would be an issue. Even if you don't want to incubate the eggs, there's no reason. I mean, fertile eggs are fine. You don't need to not have them breed. But anyway, maybe that's not what you're saying. But yeah, if you want to keep him like section off part of the cage with wire so they can still see each other, that's the way I would do it. Still almost get to each other, but not quite. And keep him in there part of the time so he doesn't overbreed them. That's probably a good idea, and that's a good way to do it. Andrew Bailey says, have a dozen quail eggs going into lockdown tonight. Well, good luck with those. I hope that you have a great hatch. Let's see, William. Hey, Chris, I know you have covered introducing new quail to existing quail, but what would happen if I introduced 20 plus 4-week-old quail to a 3x8 cage with 6 8-month-old quail? Well, if you really want, no, I'm kidding. Nothing's going to happen more than likely. You throw them in there and they're probably going to be just fine. 4 weeks old, I wouldn't wait too much longer. Get them in there now before they become sexually mature, because once they become sexually mature, then that's when the territorialism starts, and there might be some issues there adding them in. But chances are you add 4-week-old quail in there right now, especially you got 20 of them, and you're adding them to 6 more. It's probably gonna be fine. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I don't know what's going on. I can't quit yawning. I'm not really that tired, but I can't quit yawning. All right, try that again. But yeah, it's probably gonna be fine. My guess would, I usually add in like my new birds, and I usually have way more young birds than I do the older birds that are in the hutch, and I'll add them in at 2 to 3 weeks and never have a problem with that. It works great. So yeah, I'd go ahead and do it. I don't think you're going to have any problems at all. I think that's the way. That's a good way to do it. Hey, Dale's here from Dale's Quails. Says good evening, everyone from Wisconsin here. Finally, hunting weather up here. Yeah, it is today, but tomorrow it's going to be back up to 80. Well, it is today here. It's probably not going to be back up to 80 for you, but tomorrow it's going to be back up to 80. And my cousin and I went out last weekend, hung up some tree stands and put up some blinds, and man, it is technically bow season here, but it's just too hot. I don't want to go out and hunt deer at 90-degree weather. Anyway, Sam says, hey, Chris, great running into you in Alba this weekend. Yeah, I did run into you in Alba. It was good to see you and meet you in person. So hopefully things are going well for you. Let's see. Lisa says, I started 40 chicken eggs in the incubator. Only got 12 lovely chicks, a little disappointed. Yeah, that's the way it goes sometimes. I mean, unfortunately, it could be worse. You could have none, but 12 out of 40, not necessarily the best hatch, but it's not the worst. You could have done much worse with that. So hang in there. I'm sure the next hatch will go even better. Truck 3 Warden, evening, Chris. Have you ever had to deal with pepper maggots? I don't know what those are. No, I don't think I've ever had to deal with. Let me look that up. Pepper maggots? Huh. Pepper maggots. Oh, okay. So they're a genus of fruit fly. Interesting. No, I've never dealt with that. I'm guessing you're dealing with it now and you're wanting some advice on how to handle it. And I don't know the answer to that. I've never had to deal with it. Let me see if there's anything in here that talks about. I don't see. Looks like they're talking about there's a couple of different pesticides they're talking about using in this article, but no, I don't know the answer to that one. I'm sorry. That would take a little bit of research for me to figure out. I wish I did have an answer, but I've never had to deal with it. So unfortunately, I can't help with that one. I'm sorry. William says, thank you so much for the answer. You're welcome, William. I've already forgotten what I answered. Oh, about adding your quail together. Yeah, no problem. You are welcome. Scrap 5000 says, I had set up the automatic watering system a few months ago, and now also an automatic quail watering system, both from your video, and I freaking love you, man. So much time and work saved. Well, awesome. I'm glad that those have helped out. Yeah, they are a big time saver. I actually, I got the new rabbits, got them in their hutches. They weren't trained to, as far as I know, they weren't trained to water. The nipples, the water nipples that come with the automatic watering system. I know one of them wasn't. The other 3, I don't know if they were or not, but I had them all. I've been watering them all in bowls because my bucket that I was using for my rabbit automatic watering system broke, and I needed to get a new bucket. Anyway, got all that done and got it all set up. I haven't really bothered training them to it yet. I'm still watering them in bowls. And then went out to the quail hutch this morning, and the bucket from there had broken and fallen on the ground. So I got to get that all set back up. They're being watered in bowls too, but I'll get that taken care of this weekend, get that fixed back up. We got probably a couple more months before I need to worry about taking it all down. Well, let's see, September, October. Yeah, probably at least another month and a half or so before I need to take down the automatic watering system. Let's see. Gaff says, I was wondering if you introduce a new male quail into a small flock, will they accept the new one? Also, do quails get along with chickens? Okay, introducing a new male to a small flock. Introducing a new male to any flock, probably not going to go over very well. They may eventually accept him, but not initially, probably not. If they're breeding age birds, they're laying eggs, roosters are crowing, you add this rooster in, he's going to get the tar beat out of him. That's just the way that quail are. Now, you can try to mitigate that by moving them all to new territory, so that it's a brand new territory for all of them. That might help a little bit with that. But it's unlikely that you just adding him into their existing cage, probably not going to go over very well. And I'd watch him pretty closely, make sure he doesn't get his eyes pecked out or something like that, because that's what they're going to go after. As far as do quail get along with chickens, I don't think I haven't actually tried it, so I can't answer that from experience and say yes or no either way. But I don't think that it's a good idea to throw your quail in with chickens. Chickens are pretty aggressive, and they'll eat just about anything smaller than them. I would be worried about chickens going after the quail and thinking it's a food source of some kind, or even just accidentally trampling over them. But I may be wrong. Somebody else may have tried it and tell me differently. Okay. Where are we at? Andrew says, William, I actually have the exact same situation. 20 quail were about 2 weeks old, and I moved them into a cage with 6-8-month-old quail, and they were just fine. Yeah, I do that all the time. It works great. All right. Rainy Day says, I never raised quail in Missouri. Is there any precautions having to do with young quail coming up on winter? They should be able to go outside in 3 weeks to a month. Okay, so yeah, if you've got your birds outside there, if they're over like 3 or 4 weeks old, they're fully feathered out by that point, and they're acclimated to going outside, there's probably not, you don't need to worry about it. As long as they have a windbreak and they can get out of the weather, they're going to be fine. They're just like any other bird at that point. It's no problem. They should be doing just fine. Now, what you don't want to do is take them like in the dead of winter, if it's like 20 degrees outside and you've got them under a heat lamp at 100 degrees, and just take them and throw them out in the 20-degree weather. You do want to acclimate them to that just a little bit. But it sounds like you're going to be taking them out. At 3 weeks old, they should be fully feathered out. You can start weaning them off the heat lamp. Takes a couple of days to do that maybe. And then you can go ahead and move them outside, and I wouldn't worry about them at that point. Karen wants to know, what do you use for your quail water in winter? Okay. So what I did use last year and I really liked, I may do it again this year, probably will. I had to run an extension cord out there, but it's an electric watering system. I think Little Giant Miller Manufacturing makes it. It's in my Amazon shop. So if you look at all my videos, there's a link to my Amazon shop in the description. You can go there and see what they are. But it's a 3-gallon. Is it a 3-gallon? Let me look it up and see what it is. Here, I'll leave a link to it. Give me just 1 second. I'll give you a link. Where is it? Look at that second one in the list. Okay, there is a link to the water that I used this summer or this winter time. So it's a 2-gallon plastic water. It's got poultry nipples on the bottom of it and a heated base. It's got a thermostat on it, so it only kicks on when the temperature gets below 40 degrees. So it warms up, and once it's above 40 degrees, it kicks back off. It did a great job. It stayed thawed out all winter long. Now, before I had that, I was using, because my wife bought those for me. They're kind of expensive, $40, $50. What are they up to now? It looks like somebody on there is selling them for about $54 right now. Yeah, if you want one, it looks like he's got about 10 left. Whoever's on that listing's got 10 left at a $54 price. Everybody else is at least $10 higher than that. So, if you want one, it may be a good time to go ahead and pick one up. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. Before that, I used, just like what I use for feeders, like little Tupperware style containers. I just cut a hole in the side for them to stick their head through. And I use those for the water. Now, I think use something that has a lid on it, because quail will get in the water, which is not, aside from making it very, very messy, that's I mean, they poop in it. They do it gets nasty pretty quick. But aside from that, you don't want them in the water in the winter. They'll do that too. They'll get in the water and get wet, and it's like sub-freezing temperatures out there. So you want something that has a lid on it that keeps them from doing that. And those feeders work pretty well for that. I just go out, fill them up a little bit, let them all come and get a drink, and then go out in the evening and put a little bit more water on top of it, let them get a drink, and then in the morning I'll switch it out with one that's not frozen and repeat the process that day. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. Kind of what I do for the rabbits as well. Except for the rabbits, I use rubber crocks. They're rubber bowls, basically, because I can just throw those on the ground, stomp them, and knock the ice out of them and put them back in. But for the quail, I like to have something, like I said, that has a lid on it that they can't get in. Spartman says, every time I've had a quail get out of their coop, the chickens attack them ASAP. Yeah, that's kind of what I would expect, too, honestly, from chickens. Jamin Mike says, LOL, our cat got into the chicken pen earlier, and the chicken was chasing her. Yeah, chickens can be, especially roosters, can be pretty aggressive. Johnny says, hey, Chris, Johnny from Alabama, building new quail cages and four new hatch in about 10 days. I have about 40 quail eggs, still have to set up watering and feeding systems, reviewing your videos for help. Well, awesome. Good luck with that. I hope it goes well. My feeding system's pretty simple, so it doesn't take hardly any time to make those I just take little Tupperware style containers, cut a hole in the side. You could drill it with a drill if you wanted to. I just use my pocket knife and cut a hole in it. As far as how big it is, I mean, I don't know, that big, inch and a half or something across maybe. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, it's for quail. So that doesn't take any time. And you can use the same thing for water if you needed to in a pinch to get you through. So don't stress too much about that. I'm sure you'll get it down. Good luck with your hatch. I hope it goes well. Gaff says, I actually have a Bantam chicken. She's about the same size as the quails. I would figure that they would be fine since I let them hang out with the chicken at 2 weeks old. Well, they may be. I mean, you could try it out and see. Hopefully they would be. I don't know. Let's see. Nadine says, I'm from New Mexico. My first year raising rabbits. I had a wonderful year. 30 rabbits for freezer camp. Just wanted to say, I think that's it. Well, good. Congratulations on that. And well done. 30 rabbits in freezer camp. That's pretty good indeed. Glad to hear it. And New Mexico, that's a place I've wanted to visit. Have not done so. Would like to see it. Hey, Boris. Good to see you. Let's see. Scrap says, to help answer quail plus chicken question. Next to my chickens, I have chucker, which are bigger and more aggressive than quail, and they go into the chicken run. Chickens tried to murder them all. Yeah, I believe it. I don't doubt that at all. Gaff says, yikes, I raised all my chickens from babies. The ones I didn't, I tamed them quickly, but they have never tried to attack my other birds. Interesting. Every chicken's a little bit different, so you never know. Let's see. Rainy Day says, what do you suggest for waters in the winter? I think I just answered that one. If I didn't, that's the link I left. You may have missed that, but there's a link just above where you left that comment. That's the link I left to the water I've been using. It's a Farm Innovations, not Little Giant. Farm Innovations, thermostatically controlled, heated, 2-gallon plastic water. There's actually, is that I don't know. You might look around. You may be able to find one cheaper than that. I don't know. But that's what I've been using to water in the wintertime. Other than that, like I said, if you don't have electricity out there, this one requires, electricity. I had to run an extension cord out to power it last year. I need to just add I need to add both a faucet and an electrical outlet out there by the quail hutches, because I'm just constantly bringing electricity out there and constantly bringing water out. But if you don't have electricity, I use a little feeder Tupperware style container with a lid on it, and I cut holes in the side for them to stick their head through. I just put water in the bowl for them to drink. Change it out, once or twice a day, and that's fine. They don't have to have water. They're like rabbits, same thing. They don't have to have water 24 hours a day. They need to have access to water, but it doesn't have to be all the time. If you're watering them in the morning, make sure they can get a good drink. Water them in the afternoon, evening. Make sure they can get a good drink. That's going to be fine. That's going to be enough for them. This is something that's kind of rare. We just ran out of questions. Nobody's responding to me, or nobody's asking anything or leaving any comments. This is the times I always think I should have some kind of topic planned out to talk about, and I never do. I'm never prepared. Gaff says, wait, so I can introduce new female quails to a small flock? No, I didn't mean to make that. No. Anytime you add new quail, male or female, to an existing flock in their existing cage, you're almost always going to have some kind of fighting if they're fully mature birds. If you're not talking about, like, you can add 3-week-old birds, roosters and hens, into an existing flock and do just fine. But once they reach sexual maturity, you're going to have some problems because they're going to see that as an intrusion on their territory. They're going to beat the tar out and probably peck their eyes out. I mean, it's going to be, they can get pretty brutal. If you try to do this with, like, if you have fairly even, it doesn't have to be exactly even, but more than just one bird introducing to a new flock, you know, a handful of new birds introducing to an existing flock, and you do it in like neutral territory, so a cage that they're not familiar with, none of the birds are, and you just, you know, put them all in a new cage all together at the same time, that can kind of limit, that minimizes it a little bit, and you might be able to get away with it just fine. But if you just throw them in the existing cage with those birds, no, they're going to get the tar beat out of them. Jamin Mike says, not sure if one solar panel would be enough for your quail electric need. Yeah, probably. I don't know, honestly. Not only that, but solar panels are pretty expensive. I think it'd be cheaper to run electricity out there. Maybe not. Scrap 5000 says, curious, would anybody mind saying how much y'all are selling rabbit meat for per pound, live or even butchered? You know, if you're talking meat rabbits around here, I don't sell a lot of them, but whenever meat rabbits are available, I see them for sale. They're usually going for about $10, maybe $15 a rabbit at the most, but usually $10 a rabbit, somewhere right around in there for just meat purposes. If you're not talking about like good pedigree rabbits that you're going to use for breeders or something like that. I don't see very many people, if any, ever selling rabbit meat. They'll sell rabbits for meat, but not rabbit meat itself. It seems like I saw some at a butcher shop. They do sell rabbit. They have it available, and it was expensive. I mean, it was really high. Something like $8 or $9 a pound. I mean, it was pretty high. But you know, you have to look into the laws on what it's required and how much you can get away with selling, and you know what you can do. All right, Gatsky Farm says, hey Chris, we have my Shire Black Tie Affair quail hatching right now. 35 out of 60 on day 17 purchased at QuailCon. Awesome. Congratulations. 35 out of 60 so far. You're probably going to get more, so that's a pretty good hatch. Good job. Porcupine Acres says, I had to pull a runt out of the last hatch. It was being really picked on. Yeah, that does happen sometime for whatever reason. I don't know. Spartman says, I'm not sure how into tech stuff you are, but I'm trying to get a used Mac Mini to run FreeBSD properly. I don't know what FreeBSD is, or BSD, sorry, FreeBSD. I don't know what that is. So I may not be the best guy to ask about some of that stuff. I understand technology quite a bit. I'm actually not too bad with it, but I haven't been keeping up with some of the stuff lately. So I don't know. The guy that might be able to answer that for you is Brandon from Whiskey Tango Farms. He that's what he does for a living, is tech stuff. And he's pretty good with that. So he might be able to give you a better answer on that if you get on one of his live broadcasts, maybe. Not necessarily the purpose of the live broadcast, but he's a pretty nice guy, so he'd probably answer for you. But yeah, I don't know what FreeBSD is. I'll look it up. Let's see what I can find out. It looks like it is. It doesn't tell me. Open source Unix-like operating system. Okay, I understand what it is now. I don't know how to get it to work properly, though. I'm sorry. I have used Linux before, but it's been years, like 20 years since I've messed with any of that stuff. And things have changed in the last 20 years. Gav says, yes, I was talking about young quail since mine are still small. Okay, so where were we at with that? Was that introducing new quails to? Okay, so yeah, if you're talking about young quail, like 4 weeks old or younger, then yeah, you can add them to your existing flock, no problem. They're going to do just fine. Do it. Throw them in there. 1, 10, 15, 20, it doesn't matter. Throw them in there. They're going to be fine. The Carolina Kind Family Homestead says, cheers. Well, thank you. I think that's a good thing, right? Cheers. Cheers to you too. Gav says they're actually living in my dog's cage in my living room right now. Oh yeah, you need to get them out of there and go put them in with the other birds for sure. Rainy Day says, can I put 10 females and 2 females in one cage? Yes, you can. Yeah, absolutely. I do it all the time. I mean, I keep probably, I keep about that many generally in the outdoor hutch. Scrap 5000 says, oh, and to answer my own question, I sell them for $6 a pound live weight, cleaned and packaged or packed. That's a pretty good deal. $6 a pound, I'd sell them for that too. So Sparkman says it's a derivative of Unix. Gotcha. Sparkman says use Linux a lot at home. Have to use Windows at work. Yeah, I use Windows primarily. That's what I use at work. That's what I use at home. I'm just not quite as into that stuff as I used to be. I used to build my own PCs and run. I used to be a lot more into it than I am now, and I've forgotten a lot of stuff. And it's been a long time since I've really gotten into it. But I used to run long, detailed stuff that you probably don't care about. Anyway, Carolina Kind Family Home said, yes, sir. It's a greeting like hello. I thought so. I took it that way, so we're okay. Jared says, I never knew rabbit could scream until this year. Oh yeah, rabbits screaming, that's a terrible sound for sure. Rabbits don't like to scream. No, it's bad. Gordon says, how do quail keep why do quail keep panting even in nice weather? Stress. Some of it can be stress. I mean, a lot of it's just temperature regulation. They get, a little warm for whatever reason and they pant. I mean, and sometimes they just walk around panting. When they get stressed out, get nervous about something or whatever, yeah, they do that. They kind of, you see their throat vibrating and they kind of hold their mouths open a little bit. It's not always, that they're too hot or something like that. Some of it's temperature regulation, but it is a stress thing too, a lot of the times. Or if you're around the cage and they're just kind of like, you'll see them doing that, before they start, like you get those birds that want to come after you and peck your hands when they think they're scaring you off or something. They'll usually be panting like that. Their throat kind of vibrating, their mouth open before they attack you. So it's kind of a territorial display too. I don't think it's anything to worry about. Porcupine Acre says, do you ever have a quail that don't grow? The runt is the same size as for the last 2 weeks. Yeah, I mean, yes, I do have birds that don't get very big. It happens from time to time. You should cull that bird from your flock. You don't want, assuming you want bigger birds, as you go, you want your birds to get bigger and meatier and all that kind of stuff. Then yeah, you should definitely cull that one because you don't want to pass on those genetics to other birds, in your flock and start producing smaller and smaller birds as you want to get bigger and bigger birds. So cull out the very small ones. That's my thought on it. Sage Wolf from Northeast Ohio. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. And we got plenty of time left. We got 25 minutes. Chat is slowing down again. I always feel like I'm accusing you guys of something. I don't mean it like that. I just, if you're, watching this after the fact and you're wondering why I'm not answering anything or not, just sitting here not talking, it's because chat is slowing down. Porcupine Acre says, giving it as a pet. The smaller one? Yeah, okay. Well, let me clarify something too. Cull does not necessarily mean kill. Cull means remove. So yes, absolutely. Give it as a pet. Give it away to somebody, whatever you want to feed it to your dog, whatever you want to do with it. You don't have to necessarily kill the bird, just remove it from your flock. So it's not reproducing and producing smaller birds, Gaff says, I actually only have 3 quail and that's all. I was wondering if they need more quail or if 3 are just fine. Since I like them for pets, I don't want to have a lot since I'm social with them. Yeah, 3's fine. That's perfectly all right. Now, if you've got 1 male and 2 hens, you're going to run into some problems because he's going to overbreed those hens. But you can mitigate that if you're keeping them inside. Just cut their amount of light down below 12 hours a day, and you're not going to have any of those problems. But they're going to do fine. You should be able to get away with that, no problems. Hey, Verna, good to see you. You don't have to apologize for being late. There's not a timer here. There's no check-in or anything like that. It's all good. We're waiting right now for chats to catch up because things have slowed down. Good time to grab a drink. Rainy Day says, thank you so much for all your knowledge and help. Have been a fan for several years. I now live in Leadwood, Missouri, and I truly appreciate all your opinions and knowledge. I don't know where Leadwood is. Let me look that one up. Thank you for the kind comment, by the way. I appreciate that. I'm glad that you're finding the videos helpful. That's in St. Fran. Okay, so that's going to be, what is that? What's around there that I can relate to? St. Joe. Is that up near Kansas City then? Oh, no. It's way over by St. Louis. Yeah, just a little bit south of St. Louis. Okay. That's a ways away, but it's still in Missouri. So, Porcupine Acres says, when's the best time to breed your rabbits? I do most of my breeding in the fall and the winter. I don't breed much during the summer. I try to avoid it because it's just so hot out. And the rabbits, they have a great big fur coat on, so they really kind of struggle in the heat of summer, and I don't really want them to have to deal with raising kits and that kind of stuff. There's plenty of people that do breed all summer long, though. I don't know what your climate's like. I live in Southwest Missouri. We get pretty cold in the wintertime. We'll get down below freezing. I breed rabbits all winter long, have no problems with it. In fact, I don't really ever lose rabbits to the cold, even baby rabbits. As long as they're born in the nest box and the mother's pulled fur, they do just fine, no problem. I have lost rabbits trying to breed in the summer and had babies that just didn't make it because it was just too hot. But the wintertime works great. So I think the best time to breed them. Now I wait till the days stop getting up in the 80s, stay below 80, and then I just breed away. That's it. Let's see. Verna says, Chris, my cuy are doing well. Going to use your info on harvesting rabbits to give them an idea down the line. Wait, to give me an idea on the line. Okay, there you go. Use your info on harvesting rabbits to give me an idea down the line. Awesome. Yeah. I don't know how prolific they are. I mean, I don't know. I looked into raising them at one time. There's different names. What a cuy, cavies, guinea pigs is probably what most people know them as. I looked at raising those for meat at one time because they're kind of, you can just, they'll take care of themselves. They can just do it all themselves. But it looked like they only have like on average like one, maybe two babies, and it's not like it's not a regular thing. They don't breed like, you can't breed them nearly as often. So it's a little bit slower turnaround on those, I think. But I may be wrong. 5G Homestead says 8 weeks is maturity. Have you seen quail wait longer to lay eggs? Oh yeah, for sure. 8 weeks is the average. Some birds will lay at 6 or 7 weeks, and some birds take 10 weeks. Or 12 even, especially like in the fall or in the early spring when the days are not super long. Sometimes it just takes them a little bit longer to get going. That can also be a genetic thing. Some birds are just genetically, just don't mature as fast genetically. If it's a common thing, like if all your birds are taking longer than 8 weeks to mature, then you might start looking at trying to identify ones that are, maybe maturing a little bit faster, calling the others and focusing more with the ones that are maturing a little bit faster, if that's an important thing to you. Let's see. Gaff says, thanks, Chris. Always watch your streams. I don't have any other people to ask questions when I have some, since search engines don't always give me my answers. Yeah, they can always be a little bit tricky. I need to do a better job. I started to, on my website, to put out like vlog comment posts on it, and I'm just not much of a writer. I get so bored with it. I have such a hard time staying with it. I need to do a better job. Write those articles for you guys. Stick it on there so when you do a search on a search engine, if you want to read an article, you can find it on the website. You can come to the YouTube channel and watch videos on it. Whatever it is that works best for you. But I just haven't done it. Porcupine says, hot here in South Carolina. Yeah, it's the South there. I bet it is hot. It's been hot here until today. I mean, like literally it was 99 degrees yesterday afternoon when I got home from work, and today it only got up to 68. It just dropped overnight. Verna says, okay, talking about something. Oh, Verna had migraines apparently, but have it under control now. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. I didn't know you weren't feeling well, but I'm glad you are feeling better. Verna says, Chris, if they are not Coturnics, then it could be the breed. Oh, you're talking about them like maturing later? Yeah, yeah, definitely. You're right. If they're not Coturnics, that could be a different story altogether. Lisa says, I have kits born last Sunday. The last 2 days, I filled 2 or 3 of them on the wire outside the nest box. Born last Sunday, so that, like, are you talking the Sunday that just passed? So they're only like 5 days old. That, yeah, that's probably what's probably happening. Is the mother is jumping out of the nest box while they're nursing and they're latched on, and she's dragging them out whenever she does. That's probably what's happening. A lot of nest boxes, you'll see that on the very front of them, it's not just a straight up and down. There's a little bit of a ledge that goes in. So if the mother jumps off and there's a baby on there, it scrapes the baby off basically and leaves them in the nest box. Those can be helpful, but and especially if it's a new mom, it seems to be a more common issue. What I do is I just keep a fairly close eye on my rabbits, especially new moms, for about the first 10 days. And then I pick up any baby rabbits, put them back in the nest box as soon as I find them. And hopefully I can get to them on time. Usually I do. But yeah, that's something that there are a couple of things you might be able to do to fix that. If you're talking last Sunday, like a week ago, so that would put them at like 10 days old or something. They're probably just crawling out of the nest box at that point. They tend to do that right around 10 days old, somewhere around in there. You'll find them every once in a while outside of the nest box. Same thing. I just pick them up and put them back in the nest box. And then usually somewhere around 15 days, something like that, they can get in and out on their own, and they're on their own at that point. I just don't worry about it. Porcupine says, how often do you bring in fresh stock with the quail? Just once every couple of years. It's not a hard set, like every 2 years I bring in new roosters, but I try to do it like every year and a half to 2 years. Sometimes I go 2.5 years. It just varies. But I just bring in new roosters, really, is all you need to do. Typically what I do is I just order some eggs, get some eggs, incubate them, hatch them, and then, keep a couple of hens and roosters from that hatch, and they just get mixed in with my existing flock. And that's all I do. Katrina from Gilroy, California. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Katrina says, my 2 does are bred and happy. Awesome. Glad to hear it. And Lisa says, yes, 5 days old. Okay. So that sounds, and a new mom. Okay. So that sounds like just normal. Like I said, the mother, they're feeding, the mother's jumping out of the nest box and dragging them out with her when she comes. Rabbits can't pick their babies up and move them around like dogs and cats do. So, that's usually what's causing that issue. It's probably not going to be an ongoing issue. It's, something you're going to have to monitor for a little bit. But usually after, what I find with new moms is that after, a couple of days picking them up, putting them back in the nest box, they kind of figure it out and it stops becoming an issue. And it's not really necessarily the mom's fault, but it does seem like more experienced mothers, and as they get more experience, they kind of figure out when not to jump out of the nest box. And, it takes care of itself. Gaff says, if I do ever get any more baby quails, should I add more than one breed, like a mountain quail, plus, and Coturnics? Okay, so if you're talking about like a mountain quail, okay, if you do ever get any more babies quail, could I add more than one breed? Okay, got to remind me, you just want to keep a couple of quail and you just want to keep them for pets. You could try mixing other breeds of quail like bob whites and Coturnics. I know some people have done that. I don't honestly know how well that's going to work, and it's probably going to depend on the specific birds. From what I understand, bob whites are pretty aggressive birds, and they don't tend to get along with Coturnics. But I may be wrong on that one too. I haven't done it. Somebody that's done that may be able to speak up in here and give us a little bit better information on that. I would think it would be difficult to keep them together, especially if you have them in a very small area. Yeah, Verna says to Porcupine, you can go years with good stock without having to worry about bringing in new blood. Yeah, you can absolutely do that. You don't have to do it every 2 years or anything. Hey, 12 Gauge is here from Arkansas. Good to see you. Okay, we got some people talking to each other. Aura says, do you always get them from the same breeder, the new quail? Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting them from the same breeder every time. I don't typically, because it just varies on who's got them at the time. And a lot of the time what happens is I'm in a little different situation than you guys are, probably, because at this point I'm usually not like, I have somebody reaching out to me and wanting me to, here, let me give you some eggs, or somebody buys me some eggs from a breeder and sends them to me or something like that. So I usually, if they're decent quality birds that hatch out, that's what becomes my new stock, you know? So it's not a hard set thing that I just worry about, but I would not hesitate at all to like buy eggs from my Shire farm every time, or, you know, Whiskey Tango farms every time, or what, you know, whatever. I wouldn't hesitate at all. If you're getting good stock from your current breeder, there's no reason you can't just, you know, buy from the same breeder again. It'll work just fine. Oh, what do you want to give a link to, Verna? I'm sorry. I don't know who you're talking to, but you said I'm not a moderator, so I can't give the link. What are we talking about? The link to what? I can probably post it for you. I don't know. Can I make you a moderator? Add moderator. There you go. Now you're a moderator, Varna. You should be able to post a link. Katrina says, I'll be replacing my doe who died with a baby this year. Dad is California. Mom is either Black New Zealand or daughter of the other two. New Zealand has fewer bennies with slightly faster growing. Daughter, wow, that's hard to... I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time following that. Let's try that again. You're going to be replacing the doe who died with a baby. The dad is a California. The mom is either a Black New Zealand or daughter of the other two. The other two, what? What are the other two? I don't know what that means, but we'll keep reading. Maybe I'll figure it out. New Zealand has fewer bunnies with slightly faster growing. Okay. Daughter has many more bunnies than her mom, and her babies tend to be smaller, but end up mostly the same size as her mom's. From whose litter should I choose my new breeding doe? Good grief, I don't know. I don't even know whose litter we're talking about anymore. I'm having a hard time following that. I'm sorry. So I think I'm understanding now. What you're saying is, it's not that the mom is either a Black New Zealand or the daughter of the other two. That's not what you're saying. You're saying you're going to replace them. Dad is California. Well, I don't know. I'm sorry. This is so hard for me to follow for some reason. Probably my fault, not yours. Okay, so you've got one who has fewer babies with slightly faster growing. You've got one that has more babies, but they do tend to be smaller. They end up the same size as the moms. I don't, honestly, it's hard to say just on that alone. Does one have better traits? Are they meatier? Are they, friendlier, more docile, more, any of those kinds of things that would help you kind of lean towards that? I think I would tend to go with probably the bigger litter size, and then try to maybe find some other stock to bring in that you could breed in the faster grow out rates with them. But it's hard to say, honestly. That's the best answer I can give you. I'm sorry, I couldn't give you a more clear answer on that one. 12 Gauge says, I mixed Bob White and Coturnix once, and only once, because the Bob Whites killed several of the Coturnix. Yeah, I believe it. When you say you mixed them, that means you house them together, not you crossbred them. You can't crossbreed a Coturnix with another, or a Bob White with another species or anything like that. You won't get, if they did breed successfully and you were able to hatch those out, you'd get mules. They wouldn't be able to breed. They'd be sterile babies because they're different species. Gaff says, if I'm asking or saying too much, I'm sorry. I just want to get as much information as I can. No, not at all. You don't need to be sorry. Hopefully I didn't come across like you're not annoying me or bothering me. I mean, it's not the new cookbook is what you're wanting to post. Okay. Sorry, I got distracted. You're not bothering me at all. I appreciate the questions. This is why I do this, is to be able to answer questions for you guys. Ask everything you want to ask. It's fine. We won't, nobody's going to be upset by that. It's okay. What I will get, irritated by is if you're asking me the same question over and over again because I haven't answered it yet. Give me time to get to it, but you're not doing that. It's fine. Ask as many questions as you want to ask. Jim and Mike says, let's see, I have 2 New Zealand, and the last kit they had the last kilt they had 13 babies, huh? 2 New Zealands with 13 babies. That's a big litter. And Verna says, you cannot ask too many questions. I agree. Seth says, hey, Chris, what's your go-to rabbit recipe that you like the best? I have 5 rabbits that just had babies and trying to think of meals that taste good with rabbit meat. Okay, so pretty much anything that you would cook with chicken, but think along the lines of stay away from like fried. Rabbits are very, very lean. They don't, in my opinion, they don't fry well. They do better in like casseroles or braising or something with liquid in it. You can use chicken broth or something like that. Those are going to be kind of the recipes you want to lean towards. So like a chicken casserole. They do. I made fajitas with them, but not fajitas. Enchiladas. Like you would make chicken enchilada, but make it with rabbit, and that's good. It works out really well that way. One of my favorite ways, it's super easy, is the McCormick bag-in seasoning for chicken. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but comes in the seasoning aisle. It comes with a little bag that you put the chicken in, a little seasoning mix. You sprinkle over it with some vegetables in there. It doesn't come with the vegetables. You have to put vegetables and chicken in the bag, sprinkle the seasoning over them, tie it off, and then bake it. And that's pretty good with rabbit. It does a great job with that. There's lots of different ways, but it's hard for me to pick one and say, this is my absolute favorite. It's like, somebody saying, what's your favorite way to eat chicken? Your favorite recipe for chicken. Depends on what I'm in the mood for that week. But yeah, pretty much they do really well in a pressure cooker, in my opinion. Slow cookers, crock pots, that kind of stuff. Hot and fast is probably not the best way because there's no fat on them. They're so lean that they will dry out and get a little bit tough if you try to, just like if you try to fry them like you would fried chicken. Think chicken breast. That's kind of the way you want to think about them. Hopefully that helps. Aura says, thank you. Always so much information. Well, you're absolutely welcome. Yeah, Vernon needs another job, huh? Yeah, I think I figured it out, Katrina. Hopefully I gave you some things to think about. I don't know if I could. Yeah, sorry I got confused on that one. That was hard for me to follow for some reason. It was just, I couldn't keep it all straight. Hey, look at that. Lars is here. And he's just threw up 169 Danish crown super chat. I appreciate that so much, Lars. Thank you very much. Good to see you again. You don't have to throw money at us. You can just come in here and hang out if you want to, but I do appreciate that. Thank you for the kindness and the generosity. Lisa says, Seth, when in doubt, curry rabbit. Curry is good. Or you could try jerk. Well, there you go. There's two suggestions that sound pretty good. Let's see where we at. 12 gauge says, yes, housed together. I don't know. I lost track of what we were talking about, 12 gauge. I'm sorry. I don't know what we were talking about housing together. But sorry, lost track of that one. Scrap says, have you tried raising black soldier fly larvae from the rabbit droppings, which you could then feed to the quail? I bought one of those specialized bins. Works pretty well. Free protein. Yeah. I haven't I haven't tried in the sense of like I haven't set up a bin or anything like that. But black soldier flies are they come in and they colonize my manure piles, both my rabbit and my quail manure piles. They're all over the place in the summertime. They're great. They compost down the manure. They keep it in check. They keep all the flies away. Not all of them, but they significantly reduce the fly population in the manure piles. There's no fly maggots in there. It's just black soldier fly larvae. And yeah, you can harvest them out and feed them to the quail too. Joy says today here in Oregon is a beautiful fall day. Yeah, it was nice here today too. I mean, it was cloudy and rainy a little bit off and on, but it wasn't like all day rain, and it was very cool. I mean, it was like 67, 68 degrees, which when you're used to about 99, 105, 110, that's a nice change. S.O. Swanson says, my black soldier fly love the quail poop. Then I feed them back to the quail. That's truly recycling. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. They do a great job at, they compost down the quail manure, the rabbit manure too. Just if I have a bird that dies or whatever, as I toss it under the quail hutch and the manure, and it's gone in like 2-3 days at the most. Verna says, Chris, thanks you, Lars. You're always so generous. I agree. He is incredibly generous. Always so nice. I appreciate it very much. Porcupine Acres say, some say my New Zealand's don't bite. I found out different the hard way. Yeah, I haven't had really too many problems with New Zealand's biting. I did have one doe that was just crazy neurotic when she had babies. The rest of the time she was okay, but when she had babies in the cage, man, I had to put gloves on to reach in there because she'd grab the glove, tear the glove off my hand, She was crazy. Never actually got a hold of me, but almost a couple of times. Katrina says, on the dash of your car, if you're in a heat wave, yes, this works. We cooked quail and chicken legs. They were the most tender we've ever cooked them. Yeah. I don't know if that was an continuation of something else you were talking about, but I remember seeing that. Katrina says, yes, thank you, Chris. I'm getting multiple options. I have time. They're not even born yet. Yeah, you got a little while then. Well, I'm sure you'll figure it out. It's hard for me to be able to, not seeing them, not knowing the rabbits, just going off a little bit, just be able to say, oh, I'd go with that one for sure. It's hard to say. I have a hard enough time figuring out my own stuff. 12 gauge says Bob White and Coturnix. 12 gauge. Okay. Bob White. That was what I lost track of, wasn't it? Oh, keeping them all together. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm with you now. I know what we're talking about now. Verna says, Chris, I think most of the recipes that use quail meat, you could use rabbit instead. You're probably right. And Verna just released that cookbook. She put the link in here earlier, so you could grab a copy of that and definitely switch out quail for rabbit in most of that stuff. They did really well in enchiladas. Like when I made rabbit enchiladas, and I don't believe that you should do this, but you could feed that to somebody and tell them it was chicken enchiladas. They would not know the difference. They would believe you. But you should not do that. If you don't trick people like that. It's not right. If they don't want to eat rabbit, don't feed them rabbit and trick them. Women of Spirit says, Chris, what is the difference between housefly larva and black soldier fly larva? Oh, so much. They're completely different kinds of bugs. You'll have to look up what a black soldier fly is. It's almost like a little wasp, actually. They're not aggressive. They don't sting. They don't swarm like houseflies do. Their larva is much, much bigger than a typical housefly, and they're incredibly good at composting. They're voracious feeders. They just eat everything. Meat, everything. They do a great job. You'll just have to kind of look it up and see, but they're totally different. Not at all the same thing as a housefly. What else? Katrina says, all my rabbits love to be pet. They would stay still to be pet forever if they could. Well, that's nice. Mine don't mind it, especially now that I got the silver foxes. They're a lot more tolerant. They usually come up to the front of the cage. They still kind of will get back a little bit when I reach in there. They're just, don't have that trust down just yet, but they don't freak out. When I reach in, when I start petting them, they chill out, they calm down. They're like, oh, okay, this isn't so bad. But they're not quite just, super excited every time, but they're a lot easier to handle than rabbits I've had in the past. What did I miss track of something? I don't know. I lost. I'll let you guys talk to each other because I tried to jump into that conversation. Didn't know what you were talking about. There it is. There's Verna's link for the second cookbook. It's posted. You guys can pick up a copy of that. Bray the Extreme says, just hatched some quail out 4 days ago, and one with splayed legs. Shot glass method didn't work. Holding the legs together didn't work. What should I do? You're not going to like this answer, but you should probably call it. It's probably not going to get better. It's probably, there's a lot of different reasons why splay leg can happen. The most common are going to be if those are the most common. Well, I shouldn't say the most common. There's a couple of most common ones. One of those issues is if your incubator is running a little bit low and it's causing the birds to hatch out a little bit late. That can lead to splayed leg. Usually what I find out is the ones that are most prone to that are the ones that hatch out, like instead, you get the bulk of them that hatch out on day 17, day 18, and then you'll have a couple of stragglers the next day, and then usually one or two more if you let it go on, and those are the ones that seem to be more prone to the splayed legs. And it's just because they're not hatching out. They're in a cooler spot in the incubator. They didn't develop as fast. They didn't get as strong. They weaken themselves out too much trying to get out of the egg. Those are the ones that you might be able to fix. You maybe. But most of the time when you have splayed leg in a chick, it's like a genetic issue or a deformity or something like that causes it. And it's going to be very hard, if not impossible, to fix. And if you do fix it, you have a chance of passing that on to other birds. I give it a little bit of an effort. Like you said, a shot glass. If it didn't work, done. Get rid of the bird. It's just not worth it. The bird's probably going to suffer and die anyway. and I don't like them to suffer. I put them out of their misery, and I don't want to pass those. I don't want that in my breeding stock, if that makes sense. That's my take on it. All right, Joy says, I used to have a Netherland dwarf doe that was one angry bunny. I had to use a small bucket to trap her against her will to the side of the cage to be able to do anything around here. Oh yeah, that's terrible. That's a rough one. Take care, 12 gauge. Good to see you. Yeah, that's not good for you or the rabbit, honestly. I mean, I'm not blaming you. I'm not saying you did anything wrong. I don't mean it that way. It's just, that's one of those things where it's like you have to trap her against the side of the cage to do anything, because otherwise she'll attack you. But that may be just making the problem worse, because she's doing that because she's scared, and then you're trapping her against the side of the cage. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't win. It's just between a rock and a hard place kind of thing. Hey, emergency prep guy, good to see you. Woman of Spirit says, "Oh, larva much larger. Great. I have some black soldier fly larvae in my quail poo. Looks like larva on steroids." Yeah, they're fantastic. They're great to have around. Let's see, a bunch of people talking to each other. How are we doing on time? Oh my gosh, we're out of time, aren't we? Well, we're out of comments too, so I guess this is a good time to wrap this one up. Well, guys, like I said, there's a possibility next Thursday. We have clients coming in next week, and I may get tied up Thursday evening. May not be able to make it to next week's live broadcast. If you watch them, if you have your notifications turned on, like the bell icon, you'll see, because I'll post in the community, can't make it, got tied up with work or whatever, and you'll see that, so you'll know that I can't make it. And I try to do that. I don't always get it there, but sometimes I try to get that in at least an hour before the broadcast would normally post, so you're not sitting around waiting and then last minute don't know. So click that bell icon up there on my one of my videos, and make sure you got the notifications turned on so you'll know about it. But barring any of that, I'll try to be here. We'll just see. I'll just have to wait and see how it goes. It was great hanging out with you guys tonight. I always look forward to it. Always have a good time. Thank you again, Lars, for the super chat. That was so fantastic of you. I got to quit looking at comments because I'll keep talking. I got to get off here. I got work to do and tomorrow, and I got to get to bed and spend some time with my wife before we have to go to bed. So we'll see you guys next week, hopefully. Take care. As always, God bless.